July 2023 planning board meeting to order. Ms. Tanya, have you had an opportunity to do a roll call?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Has everybody had opportunity to look over minutes from the May 11th meeting?
Yep. Yes, sir. Got one correction.
Yes, sir.
500 people a month over the next 10 years, not a week.
Still pretty strong.
Well, it's 60,000 in 10 years. That was the number. So that translates generically to 500 a month.
Okay.
But aside from that, with that correction, I move the minutes be accepted as approved as presented.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor signify. Aye. Motion carries. All right. Before we get to public comments, we have some comments from Mr. Rodney Cheek.
So historically, when people have right, correct, good information, they make right, correct, good decisions. If they have wrong information, they have incomplete information, they have bad information, and make bad decisions. I think everybody understands. Does anybody in here disagree with that? So now that we're all in agreement, I was the one who proposed this progressive lot size scale. And the reason that I proposed it is because I'm genuinely concerned about the southern part of Alamance County with this mega site in Randolph County, this development going on in Chatham County, and the fact that land can be as easily developed here as it can as compared to Guilford, Chatham, and Orange counties. Now, we got a representative with us tonight from the health department, and they make the determination as what can be developed, how this works. But today in Alamance County, the minimum amount of dirt for a house with a well and a septic tank is 30,000 square feet. Now, there's 43,560 square feet in 1 acre. Translation: 100 acres of land, dirt, could potentially have 145 houses built on it. Now, this is provided all of the criteria is met. We don't need that much development. We don't need houses that close together. There is, in fact, an approved subdivision in the southern part of Alamance County today, has been approved for about 20 years. And it is 65 acres of land. And on that, there are 76 approved building sites. Now, that's a lot. And the planning board, the planning department, the inspection department has no concern over what I'm getting ready to talk about. This is all health department. But I'd just like for people to think about, what if you bought a house in a subdivision and it just laid off so you were the middle house and you had 75 neighbors around you with 75 wells and 75 septic tanks. Reckon where in time your well would be. Now, this is not our purview, but it is a matter of fact that needs to be considered. And in my opinion, if there's a big tract of land, putting the houses in a cluster is not a problem, but there needs to be some corresponding open space. Every house doesn't need to be setting, in my opinion, on 5 acres, so that you only had 20 houses on 100 acres. However, if you had 20 houses on an acre apiece, and then you had the corresponding open space, that'd be better. And what I wanted the group to see, because as a planning department, historically, we can't get people to come and give us their opinions, share information with us. We send out postcards that people throw away, put it in the newspaper, nobody gets a newspaper, send it out, advertise, do everything you want to, people don't come. So somehow or another, we got a crowd of people here tonight, and I said to the chairman, since I was the one that brought this up, how about let me tell everybody what my reasoning for this is, so they can hear it from the horses. So that's where we are in this. And tonight, of course, this is not a public hearing. It is a public input session, and that is to get information from, because there's been some stuff talked in this group. Do we really need to go to 5 acres? Would 3 acres be enough? Would 2 acres be enough? Would 1.5 acres be enough? What if we just went to a straight 1 acre? You know, there's been a lot of conversation here, but that's where we are. So I wanted everybody to hear all at the same time what the thought process was behind getting this to this point. And now you just go right ahead.
Thanks, sir.
I think Ian's going to talk a little bit from the staff perspective.
Ian, you have staff perspective, sir?
Yes. All right, before we open up for public comment, I just want to reiterate that there is no amendment on the agenda for voting tonight. This is purely a public input session. We are seeking out your input on lot sizes in the county. And again, this applies to unincorporated areas of the county and only for subdivision lot sizes. This is not going to impact heavy industrial, solar, mobile home RV parks. Those are all separate parts of the ordinance. This is purely for minimum lot size in the county, off of well and septic, and potentially, looking at water and sewer as well. Areas in watershed already have their own 1 acre minimum. Those aren't being looked at specifically. And also just some rules for public speaking. We do limit it to 3 minutes per person. We will have a timer going. That timer will not stop when it's done, and the board may call you out when your time is up. The board may also call on you afterwards for an additional question or something afterward, but we do keep in mind only 1 person speaking at a time. We want to make sure that we hear every one of you and can make sure that we get your comments so that we can go over this later, and plan board can go over this later and make a good decision for the county. All right, thank you.
All right, let's open public comments. Max Morgan.
Max Morgan, 1300 Bonfire, Raven, North Carolina. Today, I believe lot sizes should stay the same as they've been for a while. There's no reason to change the size. For example, a large septic system with repair only takes 10,000 square feet, roughly, plus or minus. And not many people have 5 to 8 bedroom houses. And if they did, they'd have a lot larger lot. And also, I believe you should think about cluster developments with smaller lots with free space outside of watershed areas. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Jason Summers.
Hello, I'm Jason Summers. I live on Mandale Road down in Southern Graham. I appreciated what you had to say, Mr. Chief. Nice to meet you. Hello, everybody. My family and I have lived for about 20 years in an old home place there. It's been, the new house was built in 1923. Mr. Otis Mangum Perry built it. I've seen the wells go dry. Andy Lloyd's wells gone dry before. very concerned about water in our and this area is right at the bottom of the county. It's right at Chatham and Orange, Mandale Road off Perry. There's a new development there. There's information I'm confused about. You talked about good information. I don't know the number of acres that this new development's gonna have, the number of houses being proposed. I don't know what the name of it is, if it's got a name. But I would love more information on that. I would like to say that we never got a postcard, nor anybody that we know on our circuit that is right there in that neighborhood where that development is happening within. I hear the trees coming down when I'm out working in my forest like I was today. I hear it, and I'm out doing.
You talking about up there on Perry Road?
Yes, sir, on Perry Road, in between Perry and 87.
Right.
And so I'm extremely interested in what's going on. I would very much like the lot sizes to stay the same for several reasons. And I'm also, I recognize my ignorance to many of the issues, but I can tell you that a cluster of houses like that to try and be in competition with Chatham Ridge in these places, that's not why I live where I live. And I would hope that we would not be feeling the competition to try and put in a high cluster unit in a rural area. I'm all for progress and economic development and people getting a community that comes up in the world with conveniences, activities and community, all that. But I really think that having this kind of development to such a degree, we know that the traffic's going to increase substantially because there's not the infrastructure for it. It wasn't set up to have that kind of traffic. And I don't want to overtake my time. I thank everyone for their attention, and I look forward to learning more. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Tom Laney.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for hearing me. I'm actually a neighbor of Jason's. I live on Mandale Road, kind of in the same area. We live on Mandale Road, and one of the big tracts of land that sold recently is between Mandale and Highway 87. I'm sorry. And so that is the one I'm a little confused too, because I had seen information about this tract of land that at first I thought was close to 100 acres. Now I'm hearing it could be more like 76 acres. But that specifically is the one closest to our area. And then I heard there's another tract near Eli Whitney that's 100 acres. So forgive my ignorance on it. Like Jason, I talked to a lot of our close neighbors and they were a little upset that they hadn't heard anything about this public input hearing tonight. Again, like Jason said, I don't know how it's typically advertised. It was just a newspaper ad, but no one got, like Jason said, postcards, any information that this was happening. And to your point about good information, it's, when people, they feel a little left out of the process. So that, I don't know what the normal process is. That might be totally normal, but it would be great to give, I feel like, people that are adjacent to these areas, better heads up and better information. I didn't want to use too much of my time, and forgive my ignorance, but when the gentleman was arguing for the lot sizes to stay the same, I was confused about what that means exactly, because I've heard from real estate agents when showing properties that there really are almost no regulations currently in our area. So would somebody be able to clarify like what that means to like stay the same, or what is it currently, or what is the current lot size regulations if you're not in a watershed? Did I ask that during my time, or?
Yeah, it's the health department says it, when a developer buys a piece of property, he or she has the right to develop it the way they want to. And this board is not wanting to come in here and say to fifth generation landowner, you can't sell your property for the most money. We're not trying to do that. What we are trying to do is to keep Alamance County from all of a sudden finding itself needing to build 47 new schools to accommodate all the children that have just magically appeared.
Hallelujah.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're trying to do.
Right.
But the health department today in Alamance County says that the minimum lot size for a dwelling with a well and a septic tank is 30,000 square feet.
So
am I saying this correctly?
Close enough. Yeah,
Who's playing?
it's the planning board.
Yeah, we're planning the park.
So back to your original comment of that many houses could
Yeah.
be fit on 100 acres. That's the current. lot
That's the
size.
current.
Okay.
That-
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I just wanted to make sure of that. And to Jason's point, during summers where we have drought, we have a small pond in our backyard. I've seen that dry up. My number one concern, other than traffic being increased, is definitely water.
Right.
And I just wanted to, so I would certainly push for larger lot sizes, or at least comparable to other properties in the area wherever possible.
Right.
But that is a huge concern. And what if this gets approved? They put in however many houses, and then a year or two or more down the line, our wells are dry. Like, is that our responsibility to pick up all those costs when that was not our decision to maybe overpopulate our area? So again, these are my concerns. I feel very lucky and fortunate to live. My house actually predates Alamance County. It's such a beautiful area, and I really hold it sacred. And I just hope, I don't want to do, disservice to people who do want to develop, but I would push for really, as high as possible, because I just think that area should be preserved because it's a beautiful natural area and the gem of this county. And so anyway, thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I can't make this out, but it looks like Kevin Simpson.
What's that?
Kevin Simpson.
Sasser.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, it's okay. I reside in the northern Alamance part of county on Highway 87. I just like to say that I think that the standards that are set now is really something that, I hope you all will consider staying with. I do a lot of development work, and also I own a farm, and speaking for the people who are developers and or farmers, I mean, people have made their investments based on what is current at this time. And, you are affecting everybody's livelihood, the farmers and the developers. And we're already, anybody that's in construction and or development already knows what we're faced with. I mean, affordable housing is not even a word at this point for everybody. I mean, and the requirements that are already put on us, I mean, it's almost unbelievable. We just spent $60,000 on sewer septic pump lines to pump on offsite on a 20 some lot subdivision. So, I mean, when you spread that over 20 some lots, it gets very difficult. And, when you start really looking at everything, it's almost if you try to go to something 2, 3 or larger, I mean, it's not even going to be possible. You might as well not plan on not selling your land, because unless you're going to sell it to somebody who wants to just buy it as a large farm. And I understand your points, but it's from a developer standpoint, it's very difficult. And from a multi-generation standpoint, it's very harsh on them, because that land, obviously everybody held on to it for a reason. I mean, there's a day when everything's for sale, and it's going to be tough on those families that held on to it for all those years. So anyway, I'm supportive of where we are right now this minute.
Thank you, Mr. Sasser.
Thanks, sir.
Jerry Cooper.
My interest in this is probably from a little different angle than these other folks, Max and the folks. I spent a working career calling on farmers. Every decision I made for 37 years affected their income. I either produced or got fired. Now, your comment, Mr. Chick, I agree with you that when you say you're not wanting to stop people from selling for the maximum amount. But if you increase the lot sizes, you are doing just that. If a 50-acre farm can hold 20 houses, then if you cut him back to 10 houses, you've cut his income.
And we talk about that. We're cognizant.
And I'm glad that you are.
Yeah.
But my concern is for the people who worked on these farms all their life. Situations have changed. Kids don't want to farm anymore. And they need to sell their farm for their retirement income. If you cut his retirement income by changing the status quo, That is discrimination against the elderly people. He's based his life on the status quo that he can sell his farm for X amount of money at the end of his work career. To cut his money in half or less is discrimination against that elderly man. He may need that money for a nursing home. And that runs into hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think the status quo, as people have made their decisions based on what it is the best way to stay. All of your other points are valid. I realize we don't need to do that, but you just can't take people that have worked to feed this nation for all their life and then cut their money by 2/3 or half when they need to sell to retire. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Jay Burke.
My name's Jay Burke. I've been a lifelong resident of Alamance County. I was on this planning board for 13 years. The last time I was here, I did not have to have reading glasses. It was about 10 years ago. I appreciate all of y'all's service. And, you know, the only thing I've told people in the past, the only thing worse than being on the planning board is not being on the planning board, because a lot of times we don't know about things and we find out too late to have input. But we have good people on the planning board, and we have good county commissioners and good county government, and I appreciate it. We have a great health department, a great planning department. These rules that we develop land with, my dad was a developer. I was in the real estate, the building, developing business for 30 years. I dealt with these rules for 30 years. I cussed them sometimes and I loved them sometimes. But I can tell you, these rules, I can say, and I only have a very small advisory role, advising someone who's developing some property now. I don't have any current property that I'm developing. I lost my passion for it and I don't plan on doing any. But these rules have been developed over probably the past 30, 40 years. And they seem to have a lot of the bases covered. To achieve the 30,000 square foot well and septic lot, conditions must almost be perfect geography, perfect perking. We have to have basically a double perk site. So if your system fails, you have enough room to put in a whole nother system. If we have a development that ends up having more than one lot per acre, a lot of times you almost have to have a community water system, which would be something that would be put in privately. Alamance County is not in the water and sewer public utility business. So it really limits the growth in that regard. And you're not going to have a lot of these max density subdivisions in the county because of that in itself. The northern part of the county doesn't perk that well. And there's only probably a half of the southern part of the county that is maybe considered fairly good. Very small percentage that's optimum. I grew up here. My grandmother worked as a child laborer in the Virginia mills in Swepsonville. My mother and father met at Cone Mills in Haw River. I've been here all my life. There's nowhere else I want to go. The development, although I'm not in that business anymore, it's a blessing. It's also a curse. I currently operate a junkyard at my home place. It's been there forever. I can see from my backyard 500 houses. There's going to be 500 more built next year. But those people have to have a right to some type of affordable ownership. I can't just say I've got my property and nobody else can get theirs. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thanks, sir. That's all I have on this sign-up sheet. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Hey, I'm Jeff Allred. Live at Snow Camp. Chased a girl down there. Grew up in Guilford County, but right next to Alamance. The biggest thing that I keep hearing is, the money, the money, the money. And I'm gonna stick with that point. You got some landowners that the only thing they had to give their kids is gonna be land. They worked their whole lives for it. I forget the gentleman's name. It was up here earlier, the hat and the white hair. He's basically said he worked his whole life, and that's what he's got left. He's got land. So when you decide to limit what you can sell a man's property for, you basically, to go from an acre lot, like Jay said, a 3/4 acre lot, you got to have optimum conditions, geography, great soil. But an acre lot, to limit a guy to 20% of what he could actually make off of selling his property, it's not it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have common sense for me. And if you were to pass it, what about the landowners that have 10 acres? Are there going to be concessions for them if they did want to give their kid an acre? And what I missed, I got here late. I didn't hear the reason that you were pushing for it. I'm assuming it's, overpopulating, trying to limit that and curb that. But I think there are more pressing issues in Alamance County right now. It takes 12 weeks to get a soil evaluation improvement permit. I think that's, most counties are at the most 4 weeks. I think our time could be better well spent, addressing that issue as opposed to, looking at issues that are going to limit how the people that grew up here, the people that are big landowners, they've been here their whole lives. That's what you're limiting is the longtime citizens of Alamance County. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Ari. Before we get, is anyone else need to speak? Mr. Walker.
Sorry, didn't sign up. Ken Walker,
You
for doing. I've been in your seat.
want it back?
before. No, thank you. One of the things I just wanted to share with you guys as I thought about this proposal coming before us as a real estate agent and sitting up there before, it's almost like we're working backwards. If this change is to come about, we don't have zoning in the county. We have mobile homes and we have junkyards and we have nice homes and they could be side by side. To me, this is working backwards. If you're going to make a change in lot sizes, it needs to be more orderly in the first place. Second of all, I second what I've heard multiple times already tonight. It's a struggle enough to develop as it is. The demands of getting good soils and I heard one of the things Mr. Cheek said about how many houses would fit on the 100 acres. Well, one of the things you got to take into place is the infrastructure that's got to go in that 100 acres before you ever build a house. And all that's got to be in place. And environmental is definitely going to have an impact on how you develop. And I'm working on a piece right now that's we've been before environmental several times. They've already revised us once and getting ready to revise us again because things change. So I think as far as lot sizes go, we need to leave status quo and maybe rethink it in a different way. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. Hope.
My name's Ike Hope. I own property in several locations around the county. Some as small as an acre and some well over 100 acres. I was a member of this body when the 30,000 square foot was developed. In the 80s, I believe it was. There was a lot of discussions. We had a hard time convincing the board of commissioners to go along with 30,000 square foot. They wanted an acre. And the argument then still applies today is affordability. And then during my tenure on the board for a long time, you know, roads was a big concern. And that's something that has always need to be addressed. But I think affordability is something that we always need to remember. Back in the 80s and 90s, when I was on this board, you know, we knew then that we were going to become the bedroom community for the surrounding counties. And all of the industry that's moving into Alamance County has created a strain on the housing industry as we knew it at that time. So it's allowed the tract builders to come in now and get a lot heavier density. But I certainly would not have any problem seeing it go up to a minimum of an acre size. You know, like this gentleman says, the infrastructure, you know, if you got 100 acres, you got to have some streets. I don't know any property that's got 100 acres all along road frontage. So when you start taking out right of ways and that sort of thing, that eats up property. But we always need to think about the little guy. Everybody's not going to have a job that's $70,000, $80,000 a year income now, like I see advertised about some of the new industry coming in. There's still a lot of janitors that work, a lot of people that, you know, just a little bit above minimum wage. And I feel like the county owes those people an opportunity to have somewhere to live someday. And if, and, you know, Jay mentioned a little bit about community water systems, you know, if you do that, I'm not that up with what the subdivision ordinance says now, but it used to go down like to about a 18,000 square foot lot size if you had a community water system. That addresses a little bit about, you know, well contamination. If you ain't got one well serving several houses, what you gonna do then? So, you know, maybe that needs to be addressed, doing away with community water systems or mobile home parks. You know, I know that's always a sticky subject, but, you know, there's pretty high density there. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Hope.
Just remember the little guys.
Thank you, Ms. Hope. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm Nina Allred. I live on Covington Road, Camp. I'm the girly chased from Guilford County. I've lived there all my life. My mom and daddy gave us almost 2 acres of land to build a house on. Same thing with my brother. And here's the thing, if they had to give me 5 acres, we couldn't have took it. We couldn't afford taxes on 5 acres and a house, especially not the way our tax value's going up now. I mean, I got 2 acres and a house, and the tax increases hit us hard, but I mean, it is what it is. It's on my daddy's farm. I ain't letting it go. But at the same time, if starting out, when we first got married, my brother the same way, we couldn't have afforded to pay for taxes and build a house and 5 acres of land. And, you know, my mom and daddy gave us what we had to have to get what we needed to build a house on. And then everything else stayed with them. I mean, I'm gonna get it eventually, my brother and I eventually, and hopefully no time soon. But, you know, that they can afford, you know, they have a farm, it's farm deferred taxes, you know, I know that. But, you know, you want to make these changes, but, and I mean, I don't want a 80-acre subdivision down the road for me either. But at the same time, it's their land. They can sell it and do what they want to, just like this is my land. I can sell it and do what I want to. And if something happens to my mom and daddy and my brother and I have to, then we have to. But a young couple or a single guy, girl starting out, they can afford 5 acres and a house, like, and that's what my mom and daddy had to give us. And that farm is what they have to give us. So, you know, just, I know what you're trying to do, but I'm not sure this is the right way to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Allred. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Judy Shager, and I live in Snow Camp on
Can't hear
White House Court. Can't hear you.
Step up to the speaker,
Oh.
ma'am.
I'm sorry. Judy Shaver, and I live on White House Court. I hear people talking about the expense of taxes and so forth. However, if you get more people in with more density, then you're going to have schools necessary and a lot more taxes. So keep that in mind too. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? All right, I picked up on quite a few points that I'd like to address myself. Affordability. Nothing is affordable in this economy right now, and it doesn't start with Alamance County Planning Department. Nothing's affordable. Go to the gas station, get gas or diesel in your truck. All right, go to the grocery store. That has nothing to do with Alamance County Planning Department, Alamance County government at all. All right, so let's take that affordability part out. There's a school being built. You and I discussed it, I think, at our last meeting down on 119. What was the cost of that school?
67 million.
$67 million paid for by the taxpayers of Alamance County via the county commissioners. By the time that school's finished, and it should be done.
It's done.
It's done.
Okay, it's done. Thank you. Now we got a staff, and of course, that's going to be state dollars. But I'd be willing to bet right about now, it wouldn't be a bad idea for another school, would it?
That was about a 5-year project.
Okay, so it's a 5-year project. So already, let's talk about another $67 million for another school. Okay, any way you do the math, that's $134 million. We had a tax reevaluation here that's going through now. I think they've been already sent out new tax bills and everybody's got sticker shock over that. Where's affordability there? Where's that affordability? We have trailer parks, we have RV parks throughout the county. Those folks are affording to live there, I'm assuming. That's affordable. The lot size, like this gentleman was talking about over here just a little while ago, Mr. Cheek did the math. Right now on a 100-acre tract of land with the 30,000 square foot minimum, you could have put 145 houses on there, provided conditions are met. What's going to happen when those wells go dry? 145 houses on 100 acres of land. Do you understand the population of the children there of already overburdened schools? So when you get back down to affordability, I remember myself about 40 years ago, there was a 600-acre farm in Pleasant Grove for sale. That 600-acre farm could have been bought for less than $600,000, less than $1,000 an acre. You won't do it now. There was 200 acres just sold over in Chatham County that I read about, I believe it was last week. Brought a little over $23 million, I believe. How many people in this room can afford to pay $23 million for a piece of land? There's a few developers in here, one in particular that I know of. And I'm going to ask you, how many lots have you developed at 30,000 square feet?
Very few.
Very few. So that lot size minimum would affect you zero.
If you take my most recent project, it was almost 300 acres. I've averaged over, I've had some acre lots, but everything averages over 5 acres.
And those lots are selling, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
As a matter of fact, the reason that I asked him that question is because right now I have 4 septic systems to put in that development right now. I've worked with environmental health a blue million times. These 2 gentlemen here tonight, I've worked with them a lot. Over in the Hall Fields area, actually near Pollard Acres is where it was at. I went in several years ago to put in a septic system for a 3-bedroom house. When I was done, a surveyor, thank you for your service, sir, we need you daily, could have come out there and shot the corners of my septic field that I put in, and I assure you there was not even room for you to lay a pack of nabs down, and you'd have been out of that soil area. Small lot. So adding to this lot size, we're not trying to inhibit or prohibit anybody from selling their farm. That's not it. That's not it at all. Because the price of real estate around here is not dropping. It is not. This is not going to affect ETJs, municipalities at all. It's just Alamance County's outside municipality area. Unincorporated area. Thanks, sir. As far as the farmers, I was a farmer myself for years. And when I was come on this planning board, Mr. Jay Burke back there, and I loved serving with that man, as well as Mr. Ike Hope. He was the chair when I came. We have set up in here, and we have, just so you know, sir, we have had some midnight meetings in this room right here over protecting the county's farms. As,
They need to be protected.
well, this is all I know to tell you. December of this year, I term out. As long as I'm here, the Alamance County farmer can say he's got a friend. Because maybe I'm not farming anymore, but the farm's still in my heart. Okay? This has nothing to do with making things unaffordable for anyone. We're not trying to prevent nothing from nobody. How about this? Try this one on for size. The gentleman over here said he was living in a house that's probably the oldest house in the county. Am I right?
That's Tom.
Is that what you said, sir?
It's up there.
All right, here's your deal. Somebody's gonna come in beside him and buy that 50-acre tract of land. And it's not gonna come from Mr. Dixon. It's not gonna come from Mr. Hope. Ken Walker's not gonna do it. The Morgans are not gonna do it. It's gonna be the mega builder that's gonna come in here from out of town, and they're gonna look at that ordinance that says, wow, they got a 30,000 square foot minimum. Let's see what we can do. That's when it's gonna be like Mr. Sasser was talking about a minute ago about the off-site septic systems. Those houses are still there. Because I've put in, I can't tell you how many hundreds of miles of off-site septic systems. Quite a few. So we're not trying to prevent nothing from nobody. What we're trying to do is when that gentleman right there decides to walk out of that 200-year-old house, he ain't got to worry about a Prius zipping by his yard, throwing out their water bottle, because we got a mega patio facility right beside of him. Then we don't have to worry about the school board over here. They're doing as great a job as can be done. God bless them. They're not gonna have to come back to the county and say, you know what, we just built the school 67 million. We got another under construction for 67 million. We need another. So the thing is now let's get back to affordability. Where is this money gonna come from? Because when your density gets to be so much, it's not just gonna end at the school system. It's gonna come on over to the sheriff's department. The health department, somebody said something about a 12-week turnaround time on a soil evaluation. Who said that? Which gentleman said that? Sir, I work in the septic field. I've worked in 64 counties in North Carolina, parts of Virginia, parts of South Carolina. 12 weeks is not too long. I can tell you that
It's
now.
not what?
It's not too long.
It's
Reason,
uncommon then. If it's not too long, it's uncommon.
okay, well then
You
it's
don't wait that
uncommon.
long in Guilford.
You do down in Johnson County, because I got a job going
That's
on
not
down there.
Guilford though.
I understand it. We're not, I ain't being ugly, sir. I promise you I'm not. Everybody has an opinion. That's great. We're not in Guilford. Those guys over there, and I'll take up for them. I've worked with them on the Blue Million jobs. I've worked with Tommy Dixon on jobs before. Everybody is so overwhelmed right now. Getting to you is the problem. It's not that they sitting over there shooting pool and eating burritos. That
I'm
ain't it.
implying that. I'm implying they're understaffed, is what I'm implying.
Okay, understaffed. So now we need to hire more people. There's hiring freeze going on all over right now.
If we're so busy, why is there a hiring freeze?
Because we're paying
Everything's blowing
$67
up.
million for schools.
Then, okay, so how's that, where's that $67 million come from?
It's coming from the checkbook that's authorized right here at this, right here. All
Which
right,
is funded by,
taxpayers.
so development leads to a higher tax base.
Okay,
But it cost it.
but it cost it. By the time the subdivisions, and I think me and Ms. Tanya's talked about this a blue million times, how many subdivisions are already, we're gonna say approved, that have not even hit the ground yet?
So average is about a year from the time we approve it till they can actually start building, get their infrastructure in. I don't know, I think we estimated between end of 17 to now, we've approved almost 2,800, probably slightly more lots.
That have not even hit the ground.
And some, probably maybe half of those have hit the ground.
Okay, so in other words, there's a developer out there that's got an approved set of plans that's still a pasture. That's still a wooded piece of acreage. All right, we're not saying let's go back and do that right there. We're saying if we can increase lot size a little bit more reasonable here. Mr. Holt even said himself, he could live with an acre. I could live with anything more than 30,000. Anything more. I'd be appreciative. Because me and my guys are the ones out there, like I said, shoehorning septic systems in. And if it fails, you're done. You're done. We just put in a septic system last year down to 87 South. When we finished down there, I promise you, you couldn't even spit in that tank, get any more volume out of it, what you're gonna get. It was done. Brand new house, beautiful house. But when that septic system fails, they can go to a hotel. There's no room for repair. None.
It should be.
There's not, because if a lot was platted, was before
Oh, the
1982.
Pre-existing lot.
It's a
Yeah.
pre-existing lot. It is repair exempt. And I was looking it up just a second ago because I just met with a lady yesterday myself. wanting to buy a lot over, we're gonna say near Western High School, that's all I'm gonna say, okay? She was gonna have to have 2 lots to be buildable on. She had the septic permits was already done because those lots met county minimum at the time. And I'm not talking 30,000. There was one lot over there, one deeded lot that's less than 30,000 square feet. But at the time it was platted, it was approved. It was allowed. So I walked over those lots and that lady asked me she asked me and I gave her an honest answer. She said, what do you think? And I said, well, you got a 70-foot single wide mobile home. If you slam it to the ground on this end, you're gonna be 14 foot high on that end. So I don't know what her plans are. She asked me to quote things. I quoted it to her. That's what I'm gonna do. And Mr. Cheek, for all intents and purposes, was right in his idea to do this. Everybody has an opinion and I want to hear it myself. But it's also about, and we talked about affordability. How about this? How about let's preserve the rural character of this county? How about let's do that? Because I've worked, like I said, all over this state. I've been to places down in Wilson County, Nash County, that I remember riding through and seeing tobacco, corn, soybeans, cotton, cucumbers, sweet potatoes. You know what you see now? You need to have flying cars. 20 feet between the house. 20 feet. Not being disrespectful. I don't want to smell my neighbor's laundry vent when I walk out my door.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, sir.
I lived growing up all over the East Coast of the United States, from Niagara Falls, New York, all the way down to South Carolina, West Virginia, all over. My wife's a New Yorker. We choose to live here because we can. This is the best place on the East Coast to live. We choose to live exactly where we live because it is so wonderful. And I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and everything I do on our property, I think of her.
Exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm going to ask I've got one question I want to ask somebody, and I'm going to prove a point, and I'm going to be done. Everybody else can have their time. Miss Poe, where have you and your husband lived? I understand at one time you folks may have lived in Florida. Is that right? Where else? Where all of you folks live? Just tell me.
Well, we lived in Florida together.
Okay.
I moved from Connecticut to Florida.
Okay.
He's Pennsylvania.
But you're living in Snow Camp right now because you like the character, don't you?
That's right. We picked that dot on the map.
That's right.
It was in the middle of.
You come through and checked it out and you just love the character and the peace and tranquility, right?
Sort of tranquil.
Okay. So that's the point that I want to make. There's a lot of folks that's moving here and buying property, buying houses, building houses. They're moving here. Why? They love it. When you have that 100-acre farm that's split up in 145 houses, you just lost a whole lot of peace and tranquility. You lost a lot of privacy. And I believe in that. So thank you, sir.
40-some acre farm was for sale and you could have bought it instead of letting that tract builder buy it.
Yeah, there's a similar situation happened like that in another part of the county. And it didn't quite work out like it. And I know that part of the county is not very happy right now. And they have my blessings. I feel their pain. But right now, and I feel what you're saying, when I was farming, I held a lease on about 12,000 acres of land. And I was serious about what I did. But even then, when that farm came up for sale, it was 700 acres in that tract of land. And the lady gave me a price per acre price. And I promise you, it was awesome. But when I did the math, it came up to like $1,350,000. I went to the bank. I was approved for the loan. All I had to do was sign the paper and it was a done deal. It was mine. I did the math on how long it would take me to pay for it. At $1,250 an acre, which is dirt cheap. You can't even buy swamp land for $1,250 an acre now. When I did the math, I pushed the ad machine back on the kitchen table. I walked into my 2 boys' bedroom and I looked at them and I made up my mind right then after looking at the numbers. My grandchildren would have seen that farm paid for. With that being said, I was not going to make a decision that was going to affect my grandchildren when my boys at the time was 4 and 8. I couldn't do it. So do I like farms? I love them. I didn't drive the price up. Anybody else got anything? Yes, sir.
Just to ask of the environmental people here, just my curiosity again with the water, and I appreciate all your comments tremendously. and the perspective, taking everything into account that people have said tonight. I'm just wondering, outside of a lot perking and knowing that, okay, we can put a septic system here, what sort of evaluations are done, if any, to the local water table itself? And how much it can withstand before private wells do run dry if, say, a development came into an area? Does anybody maybe speak to that?
Mr. Snow, can you answer that question?
We don't do that.
Okay.
I mean, if the well exceeds a certain amount of gallon minute pulled out of the groundwater, a single well, the state has permitted requirements to come in, but for individual wells, we don't.
Okay, so it's really an unknown. Like, your lots could perk, you could throw 100 houses on this, farm piece of tract, but you really have no idea how that's going to affect the water table. So to me, that's
Just rolling the dice.
It's really scary, because this is thousands of dollars people have to invest in re-drilling, hoping you can hit water lower. I mean, it's a scary thought. And, this is the number of houses even near our area and the other one on Eli Whitney, that is more than doubling the entire area, if they were to put even near that many houses in. So yeah, again, the traffic is one thing, but to me, the water is and preserving the character, like you said, is just a huge concern. The water is a giant concern.
There's a subdivision down outside of Saxon Hall. I did a whole lot of work in it myself. A local developer put it together. I want to say, and I'm just throwing out a guesstimate, I want to say there's somewhere around 60 houses in that subdivision. One well. Community well. The thing about the community well, and I was down there working when all this was going on. Right now, you kind of you can't say you're in a drought, but we're not in a flood either right now. But what I do remember down there is if you went more than 7 days without a rain, you couldn't wash your car, you couldn't water your lawn, your water usage was restricted right then. 1 week without rain, one. So when it comes to community wells, I'm not a big fan of that either. Realistically, if you want that smaller lot, we're not going to be bookering with ETJs. We're not going to be bookering with anything that's under municipality's jurisdiction. There you go.
It may be contentious right now, but let's not forget climate change. It's getting hotter. Maybe people want to argue about that, but I'm considering that we don't know what's coming with that either. That's another roll of the dice.
Sir, I want to tell you about how unpredictable the water table is. I just built a house on a 2-acre tract of land. 1,000 feet down, half gallon a minute, and I had to frack it to get enough water for them people to move in. 1,000 feet.
Yes, sir.
I was just talking to a well driller last week over in Guilford County. All right. We was talking about the cost of drilling a well. And this guy drills a lot of wells here in this county. And I asked him, I said, what's your average cost for drilling a well for, say, just drilling a well for a residential house? What's your cost? He said, it's right now you're starting at about $9,000 to $10,000 going up. When we get down so many feet, it's so much a foot. So when you slam all those houses on Mama's farm and you punch all those wells in the ground, that aquifer can't handle but so much. Eventually it's going to go dry. So now you got 145 houses on a 100-acre tract of land, and when one well goes dry, it ain't going to be just that one over in the middle of that community. It ain't going to cut it like that. It's going to be widespread. So if today's cost of drilling a well is $9,000 to $10,000, I can only imagine what the cost of that well is going to be in 10 years. How close am I, Mr. Hall? You're right. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, Mr. Burke.
I have a few questions. One, I'd like to ask Rob Snow. I think he's the environmental health representative here tonight. How many subdivisions have you seen, Rob, where you have widespread mass well failure where they could not re-drill a well and get water or had storage tanks or whatnot and recoup?
I've seen some difficulties. I think I've seen all of them overcome eventually. That's very rare.
How long does the difficulty last?
Well, as far as it might be, I've seen some marsh tracts in the northern part of the county, for instance, have several attempts drilled. So we do have one thing in the county. We've got depth to volume minimum that most counties don't have. So we do require that a depth of whatever amount produce X number of gallons of water. So the shallower the well, the more water it has to produce, the deeper the well, the amount can drop because you increase volume of water in the well. There are areas in the county that have harder to get, hit water when you drill a well, but there have been very few.
I have another question. How many of these meetings are y'all planning on having to discuss everything that we're talking about tonight?
Ms. Tanya?
I think we haven't set out a schedule. We were putting this out to see what kind of results we would get, kind of input and evaluate from there. Because what y'all had planned on doing was having the input session, then come back to your regular scheduled August meeting with the information from this and kind of evaluate there what's next.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
That's okay. What exactly is even being proposed? I haven't seen anybody who represents Alamance County saying, we want to go to an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, 4 acres, 5 acres. I didn't even really see the meeting advertised very well. I was just curious, is there any type of actual number that you propose, or somebody here has an idea to propose that we increase lots to?
Well, since you've asked, and since I was the one who got this up, I've spent 54 years listening to people point out faults and frailties and problems, and then going, now fix it. And I guess there's something that's more irritating than that, but if you're going to find a problem with somebody else's whatever, there needs to be a solution. So the proposal is that we go to a 2 acre lot. Now this is Rodney talking now. The planning board hadn't even signed on to this. But where we started was a 2 acre minimum. If you got 4 lots or less, if you go to the 5th lot, it goes to 3 acres. That's 5 to 9. If you go to 10 lots, it goes to 4 acres to 14. And if you go to 15 lots, then it goes to 5 acres. And there's where the 5 acre lot comes in. And this is for these huge mega developments, so that we're not having 100 or 125 or 145 houses on 100 acres of land. It maxes out at 20 per 100. Then that's the proposal that I've offered. Now there's some other people on the board said, well, why don't we go to 65,000 feet? Why don't we go to 1.5 acres? Why don't we do this, do that, all that? But what I said when I started this conversation was a progressive scale. The bigger the development, the bigger the lots. And if you want to cluster the houses, that's fine. But you have corresponding open space that's not developed. And there's something else that hadn't been talked about tonight, but I think it should be addressed. There's a thing called voluntary ag district. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, sir.
And we think if we got the farm tied up in this voluntary ag district, then that land can't be developed. And that's a generically right statement. But for enough money, anything can in fact be done. And if you want to pay the lawyer to untie it and pay the back taxes on it and get it back to a developable state, that land becomes in play as developing land goes. So this Rodney thinks that in time, there's going to be enough requirement for housing, be it affordable or not, but housing from our neighbors, that some of this stuff's going to start happening. Now, I've been wrong before, and if I'm wrong about this, I'll stand right over here on these courthouse steps noon on any Saturday y'all pick, and I'll apologize to the whole county one time. I'm sorry for having wasted your time and money. However, if this development comes in here and we get run over and snowballed, the opposite of an apology is probably what it sounds. So
I'm gonna throw something in, because I was talking a little bit ago about affordability. With a 30,000 square foot minimum, where it's at right now. And well, I've heard several people tonight talk about if we increase that lot size, it's no longer affordable. Well, let's stop and think about it like this right here. What if we cut that lot size to 15,000 where we can build more houses? Is it gonna be affordable to keep building schools at 62 to 67 million dollars a crack? Our sheriff's department is already, I'm not gonna say they're at capacity, but we got a pretty good sized force over there. Our health department's already overworked. I mean, where's the affordability? If we're gonna trade off a smaller lot size to be affordable, then we gotta turn around, we gotta build more schools. And I'm not against that. I'm just saying, if we gotta build more schools at today's cost, we've got to put on more officers at the sheriff's department. We gotta put on more people at the health department. The planning department is already at their capacity. They got a good sized staff over there, but they're already doing all they can. They can't do but so much. Everybody at some point in time has got to be able to shut the door, go home, take a shower, and watch TV and eat dinner. They can't work 24 hours a day. Where's their affordability? So what I've understood, and I got a phone call, I talked to a guy from when I pulled out of my driveway till I parked my truck out front. I talked to him on the phone down in the Snow Camp area. He called me. He said, Ray, you need to know this. I want to talk to you for a little bit. Fine, what you got? Yes, sir.
Schools don't have to cost 57 million each in tax bill. There are better ways to build schools.
I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying, but I will tell you this. Right on down 54, take a left on 119, and you'll look at $67 million when you look to the right. So the engineer put it up. It was put out to bids. Who built that school? Sam have something to do with that.
You might want to back up, start with architect,
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
because that's where the problem is. You don't, the buildings that we're building today to educate these kids
Right.
are not necessary.
I'm not going to disagree with that. The school I went to school in, when I was in high school, was built in like 1963, and I did just fine.
I agree with that.
All right. So the thing is, when you back down to your affordability part, if you got a 30,000 square foot lot and everybody just embraces that school over here on 119 is going to be at capacity before the teachers come in and everybody gets to not be able to say pledge allegiance. Yes, sir.
There's a school on Pagetown Road due to open that's cost 20 million to build with the startup costs. And it didn't cost a penny to the taxpayers. It was paid with private funds and funds saved from operating accounts.
That's the Pagetown Road over in Castle County.
That's
That's right. I do apologize. I have rode by there and I've seen that. Being a charter school, obviously the taxpayers wouldn't be up to pay that bill anyway. So. Sure.
Address the school construction.
Please.
$67 million is a ground up high school. When you build a high school, you have to have the sports facilities and you have to have all the gyms. You have to have all these things. We're talking about schools from 50 years ago versus schools now. The current building code requires certain electrical requirements. They get down to even the freaking foot candles in the classroom that has to be indirect light versus direct light, the width of the hallways, all those things. 67 million for a high school is probably the current going rate for public schools with the chilled water and the boiler systems and all of the things that have to go with it, the parking, the athletic stadiums and all that. That is probably an inflated amount for an elementary school because they don't have to have those amounts. So it's in the 30, 35, $40 million range to build it, to buy the land, and to furnish it with the architectural.
Well, okay, and here's the thing. I'm not criticizing. I've rode by there several times. It is a beautiful facility.
It's just what it is.
Exactly, but it's a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
All right, so my whole thing is if we don't modify it, if we don't massage it just a little bit, you know, before before they put the flag on the flagpole over, there, somebody's gonna need to be breaking around somewhere else. We got the mega site over in Randolph County that's coming to town. Toyota's done started hiring people. They ready to get thinking about, they getting ready to open it up, but they're not done over there. There's more people coming. There's more facilities coming. It's already to the point that if you're anywhere close to that mega site, it's not affordable to buy. I can assure you of that. Is that going to affect Alamance County? Absolutely, because those people are not going to want to drive from Oxford to the mega site. They're not going to want to drive from Winston-Salem to the mega site. They're going to be like, 15 minutes, I can be right over there in Alamance County, Snow Camp over near Liberty Way. Let's go over and build this house. The population is coming, sir. I promise you. Yes, sir.
I've probably developed over 1,000 lots, built over probably 325, 350 houses. All of those lots were in Alamance County. All the houses were in Alamance County. My personal, and like I said, I'm not in that industry anymore. My experience is that I have not experienced all of these septic failures, all of these problems. We probably had in my whole career, maybe 1 or 2 wells that were excessively deep, like 800-900 feet. We had to, the builder, myself, we had to drill deeper to create more volume in the bottom for water storage. To overcome that, it had to be approved by the health department. One subdivision in Saxby, Timberlake, Thornton's Ridge, it has 120 houses on 2 wells. It's a public water supply community well. It's governed by the state of North Carolina. It's not governed by the health department. It's governed by the North Carolina Utilities Commission. We had to get a franchise from them. It's regulated like a stockbroker, basically. I haven't experienced all of these problems. Just two more thoughts. One, if we have these additional, and I hope we have, as big you're talking just such a gigantic change here, I hope that we have a lot more meetings on this. I hope we have longer than 3 minutes that we can talk about it. I do appreciate the discretionary time now. But keep in mind that we've worked with these rules for the past 30 or 40 years, and they've been developed by the planning department, environmental health, builders, developers, home builders, realtors. They seem to have been working just fine. I didn't realize, I'm shocked that there's all these problems with them. I'm really honestly surprised. Keep in mind that Alamance County, Junior T put me on the planning board. He was the one who appointed me there. Those commissioners and the people who worked here at Alamance County Chamber of Commerce, they have begged and pleaded and subsidized and give money to these industries so they can come in here. So we could have a better way of life and a job for everybody and a better future and higher land values and to promote building, to create a higher property tax base so they would have more money. And I'm just shocked that all of a sudden we've got all these problems. I know we've got a lot of influx, but let me ask you a question. If we've got all these problems, why do all these people want to be here? Why does everybody why do these people move here? They love it here, but it's not fair for them to come here and say, I've got my little farm here and I don't want you to live next to me because you don't make enough money. That's what we call Orange County. Okay, that's what we call Orange County. And if you want that, that's where you should go because that's what you're going to get. You know that 90% of the people who work at the University of North Carolina have to commute. The people that serve you at the lunch line, they have to go somewhere to live in a trailer park in another county because they can't afford to live there. That to me, and the people who right through Orange County, look at all the vacant area. And don't get me wrong, I will be the first one to admit that Orange County is beautiful. It is more rural. It is more scenic. I love to look at it. I like it that there's no billboards on the interstate in Orange County. I'm not, and I'm a conservative guy. It is prettier, but we have to find a place for people to live. And everybody has a right to that because as much as we want to protect our children or give them some property or whatever, everybody can't afford that, you know? So anyway, if we do have some more meetings, let's please promote it more to where we can have more people coming. And let's have a little, maybe more time to comment, but thank you for allowing me to comment.
I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
Just a couple things. One, if I want to say this correctly, but I don't think it's our position as planners to dictate what the commissioner's job is. And on one hand, our commissioners are incentivizing people to come and build here, to develop here, to bring industry here. And I can tell you as a realtor, we don't have houses for those people to come work here. They're having to commute to us now because we don't have any housing. We are in a crisis. When I tell you a crisis for housing, you know, it seems like a conflict, whether 2 acres or 1 acre is going to make that difference. I don't know that. But I can tell you this, I hear Mr. Cheek talking about clusters. That seems like a conflict too. We're on one hand talking about, we don't want houses to be tight, and yet we're talking about clustering so we have open space. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I'd much rather see 1 acre than I would a cluster home and a bunch of empty space. That doesn't add up in my book. So I think we really need to think through what we're trying to accomplish. If people come, there's got to be a way to have schools, but we can't be asking for new industry and new growth. And then on the other hand, say, whoa, we don't want this, but we do want this, because that's where we are right now, guys. I can tell you, as one looking at housing, we don't have it.
Well, this is, we're gonna say the beginning. There will be plenty more public meetings, input sessions or whatever. That's where we're staying. That's where we're at now.
It convinces, that's all we're saying. If, and I apologize for interrupting you, Ray.
No, you're fine.
But if the majority of people come in here, the majority of people in Alamance County said that they're for 10 acres, make it 10 acres, if that's what the taxpayer wants. But I'm gonna have to be convinced of that. And and I'm convinced of it, you know, if the majority rules, say that's fine.
Okay.
But I just, you know, I'm baffled.
Give me just 1 second, please. Your dad did a subdivision. If you go down what used to be Sizemore's Lumber Company, you bear off to
Rock Creek Acres, I think.
down there near Tom Road. Is that right?
Manufactured home.
Yes. But your dad did. Matter of fact, I met with you down there one day. You was working on a dozer. We sit down and we just talking, had a great old time.
Yeah, right.
Those lots were not 30,000 square feet. Those lots were acre and a half, 2 acres.
Well, see,
But it was back to what environmental health could approve due to soil conditions.
well, it's 30,000. You're right in the sense that it's 30,000 square feet. But when we say 30,000 square feet, the health department adds a caveat, 30,000 square feet or whatever is required to meet the health department's soil standards. And the soil standards are 2 perk sites, enough to put in 2 systems.
And you know why that is.
Sure, if one fails, you have 100% repair area.
This is what I can say, and I can back this up, and I hope I'm speaking correctly. You can put in a brand new septic system today. House can be ready to move into. We'll say, let's give them 60 days. Let's be generous. From the time they move in, if that septic system is maintained properly, and I'm talking pumping, you didn't build a slab garage over the septic field, it's maintained proper. You cut your grass, you trim your bushes, you have a great day. Let's get on the patio and cook, throw a steak on the grill. Best case scenario, that septic system's life expectancy, depending on soil conditions, of course, you got to get back to your LTAR. That septic system's life expectancy is going to be somewhere between what, 25 and 30 years? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some last longer.
A little longer, but we're going to say average 25 to 30 years. Now, when that septic system fails, you got to have that 100% repair. If you put in 25, 50% reduction up front, you gotta have at least that much for repair. That's your brand new septic system after that one fails. All right, now, if you buy OMAT sludge and that system one doesn't start breaking down, dissolving, dissipating, going away, your life expectancy is still not a lot. So the thing is, and this is just my opinion, that's all. I worked in a lot of your dad's subdivisions. I worked in a couple of yours. I've been through your subdivisions. They were very nice, put together very well. I didn't see no 30,000 square foot lots. Everything I saw was very reasonable. I worked on Mr. Dixon's subdivision. Like I said, I got 4 septic systems put on one of his right now. I've been through a blue million of his jobs, and I've not seen the 30,000 square foot lots. What I'm seeing is some acres, we're gonna get on up to maybe 2 and 3, in some cases 4 and 5.
About 25.
I like it even better. All right, Mr. Holt over there, he's been a builder for the longest time. He does a great job. Now let's talk about Mr. Sasser over there. I've looked at his work and it's absolutely beautiful. The man does a great job. I ride by up 87, his place up there next to that meat market. I just want to stop in and stay put. It's beautiful up there.
Thank you.
So it's not about taking away from nobody, but at 30,000 square feet minimum, it's not you guys. It's not Jay Burke and Jack Burke, the developer. It's not you. It's not Mr. Sasser over there, because I promise you, I believe you can go over and throw food on the patio and still eat it. The man does a great job. Tommy Dixon over here, I work on his stuff all the time, and he's not got no small lots. I've done work for Mr. Walker before, and everything was just as stellar as could possibly be. It's not the local Alamance County developer / builder. That's the problem. Go down 54, hang a left on Tom Road, tell me what you think. Because there's where you're going to see the biggest reason everybody's crowing about this 30,000 square foot. We was in here one night and a lady come in here and was just all beside herself because a mega builder out of Durham, that's all I'm going to say, it came in down there, had bought up a cornfield right there where Watkins Grading's at. I believe it's Watkins Towing and Recovery now. And they slapping houses in there close enough. I tell you, just string your clothesline from window to window. You use it tonight, I use it tomorrow.
I can do that.
I just assume you don't. I'll just use my dryer and I go in my backyard and take care of
Promise
mine.
everybody, you know, I own 0.1/5 of an acre in Alamance County, and have my septic tank pumped about every 3 years with only 3 people and 4 people in the house.
You need me. You need me.
I had to be a new lines put in.
I didn't do it. We've got a lot of good realtors in this county that do a great job. The problem is not the local builder / developer. That's not the problem. And we're not trying to single nobody out. But with the mega site going on and it's not done, what's that? What's over there in Moncure? What they planning over there? And that's over in Chatham County, I believe. Okay. All this, it's gonna be pointless when we get overrun, because when it happens, ain't gonna be no stopping it. You're gonna come over to the planning department, you're gonna go over to building inspection, everybody's gonna jump straight up and down. You're not gonna be able to get a parking slot on county commissioner night. Everybody's gonna be bent slap out of shape. We're trying to be proactive, not reactive. That's our whole point. That's all we're after. Yes, sir.
Just to clarify what Mr. Cheek said earlier, as far as getting 145 lots on 100 acres, that's not accurate. For 30,000 square foot lots. He didn't take into account any kind of infrastructure. Typically, you're going to lose anywhere from 25 to 30%. So on a 100-acre subdivision, it's 8-acre lots, you get for great soil, you might get 70 lots. You know, God bless if you get 60 out of it. But at 30,000 square foot lots, you're probably gonna get 100 lots out of it. But to think that the mega builders aren't here now,
they're here
already. Yeah, they're absolutely already here. You know, we had a tract of land out near my house. D.R. Horton looked at it, 80 acres. They're gonna put 100 houses on it, septic permitting. I went and told my in-laws, it was 2 miles from their house. I said, I might can buy it, but I can't buy it and keep it. I said, I can buy it and do bigger tracks on it. And, you know, for people to be worried about, you know, a development right next to them, I don't think that's the I don't think you should limit what your neighbor does with rules like this. And going back to what Mr. Cheek said, he said 20 lots per 100. And I just gave you his escalation scales. He worked it out to 20 lots per 100. So who could develop? Even if the developers that you're not wanting to affect, who could buy a 100-acre tract of land and only put 20 lots on it? Certainly nobody that you're naming in here could do it. So there's got to be, that escalation scale. I think that's way, way off. The acre lots versus the 3/4 acre lots, you might have, we could probably run it through the tax office. There might be 1,000 3/4 acre lots in the county, if there's that many. Everything else is an acre plus, simply because, like Jay said, there's not that much good soil around.
I can agree with that. And we probably have to put this out there much, but anytime you put a private road in, you're at an acre anyway. We won't go to 30,000.
Yeah. And that's an acre outside the right of way. That doesn't, in a private road, your property lines actually go to the center line. They have road maintenance agreements, but you actually have to have an acre outside of it. So
I like you just fine. I think you're a great guy and I'm not going to disagree with you, but this is what I am going to say. One thing you just said. Me personally, I'm a big fan of property ownership rights. It's not my place to tell you what you can do. I'm not going to tell you can't have a cornfield in your backyard, fill your freezer if that's not fair to you. When this whole political correctness thing come along, I listened to it and paid attention to it for just a little while. And here's the thing. If you buy the land next to me and build you a house, how you doing? Let's throw something on the grill. Let's have a good time. You want us to go fishing? We're going to be nice. But when it gets to the point that you're going to tell me, well, you know what? I own this right here and I'm going to build me a chicken house right here. So when you walk out on your patio, you're going to smell it. I'm not going to come.
That's a different issue than lot size. That's zoning.
No, we don't have zoning.
That's right.
And it's not going to happen here. My whole thing is we're back to this thing about be a good neighbor, not tell your neighbor what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. At the same time, I can assure you with being as kindly as I can. My neighbor won't tell me what to do. When I get to the house, I'm going to mind my own affairs. I ain't going to bother nobody. My problem is when you take a house that's like this, we got an acre and a half minimum. Let's go to 30,000. Now your house is like that right yonder.
No, they're not.
I don't want nobody. Okay.
They would have a setback.
The setback don't change.
The setback.
Your setback's not going to change. You're right. But I can tell you this, go down there to Tom Road like I asked very nicely.
But what is it on the other side of the lot? It's 50 feet between the two houses in. Sure it is. How wide is the house you're talking about?
I'm not going to give you, can't give you a measurement of the house. I didn't get out of the truck and walk around and I'm not going to do it once again. That would be me trespassing on somebody else's property. Ray don't do that. But here's the thing.
Square foot lot has to be 100 foot wide. It has to be 100 foot wide in Alamance County. So for two houses to be 20 feet apart, like you're talking about, then the house will have to be 80 feet wide with a 10-foot side setback. So you have to have side-by-side houses 80 feet wide.
Okay, and like I said earlier, shoehorning stuff in. They're not just shoehorning in septic systems as well.
80 feet wide. An 80 foot house by 50 foot is a 4,000 square foot house. Just on the first floor.
Yeah, true that. And I'm gonna throw this one in there. I'd be willing to bet that you could ride around the trailer parks right here and there's 76-foot trailers in the trailer parks.
That was what?
76-foot trailer, 76-foot houses in those trailer parks.
You don't build many trailers across a lot like you're talking about.
You're right. I understand what you're saying.
Extremes like Mr. Cheeks and some of your examples, Mr. Cobb. I tell you, y'all.
It's a bunch of exaggeration in how
what it is.
Ray, I think the other thing
reduces some credibility.
Okay, well, I tell you what, let's do. Let's just stop. Let's just quit everything. And let's just sit here and do like this right here and see if Rodney's wrong. Because when all this development comes, and then we got to have more schools, and we got to have better roads, and we got to have all this stuff, and we don't have enough staff to issue the building permits and keep up with it. Then we just sit around and say, now what just happened? Where are we? All I want to do is get a conversation started. The 30,000 square feet is 30,000 square feet. There's 43,560 square feet in an acre. Add 2 zeros to that, that's 100 acres. Divide that by 30,000.
Is 145.
Point.
But,
And it,
but where are the roads? Where's your roads?
you know
Where's your
what?
street?
Hold on a second. For
You
that
just
to,
said hyperbole. That's what you're doing.
for that to work, you got to have perfect conditions.
Everything's
no,
gotta be perfect.
We said that to start with.
You still gotta put a road
You gotta put a
in.
road in.
Yeah, you gotta have a road.
That's right, because there ain't no state maintained roads. There ain't no public roads already. We talking about just a piece of property in absentia that we got to figure a way of getting to it. It's just somewhere.
The developer
Correct.
has to pay to put that
The
road
development
in.
has to put that road in.
Right,
And
right.
curb at any kind of infrastructure, the
Yeah,
developer
yeah.
pays before the lot ever.
Yes, your math is at 100% correct. 43,560 times 100 divided by 30,000 is 145 and some change.
And that's all I'm saying is what it could be. Now, here's a question.
But Rodney, you can't do that.
You can't.
It don't work.
You're
Okay,
not really gonna
well,
get
if
145
in
lots.
fact-
That's the point I was trying to make.
If in fact it won't work, if all our lots are already an acre, acre and a half, 2 acres, because that's what they are, what it works out to, why not just make it 2 acres? Why hold it at 30,000 feet?
I think if you really took the time to study it, you're really not that far off. But the problem is you're still limiting everybody. I mean, because between topography and stormwater control, we're already faced with challenges. So if you start messing with that acreage, then you gotta have perfect topography, perfect soil. Everything's gotta be perfect to ever get anywhere close, and you can't get close to that number that you're calling at.
Fair enough.
So
So if you build about the most affordable house in the county, you take, your lot cost is at least 20% of every house you build, right? If you have to build one of your $300,000 houses, that I wish you'd build more of, but if you had to build more of those $300,000 houses, but you had to put it on a 5-acre lot, could you still build that $300,000 house? It depends on that.
I don't, Ben, because I don't think anybody's took the time to tell you what the cost of that lot is, and you know what the cost of that lot is, 5 acres.
You're not getting that lot for $60,000.
Can I add something?
Sure.
And this was real fast, real quick and dirty today, but there were 59 land transactions over the last year. 9 of those were less than an acre. So the majority of them were well over an acre, probably more like 2 or 3 acres. Our minimum lot size minimum lots that were sold last year was 3.59 acres. So I don't think we have an overabundance of 30,000 acre lots.
You know why, Sandy? Because there's
There's no availability because
There's not any.
yeah.
That's just Sandy, would it benefit the board, for the realtor board, to get some feedback to us from all their members?
We could work with, the realtor board could work with the county to pull together some numbers as far as land sizes and things like that. I think the bigger issue is, we've got a $67 million high school that we're opening in August that accommodates 1,250 students. That was 5 years in the making, and it was an education bond that this county passed. We now need another school in 5 years. We've got 21 of our 37 campuses that are already technically, per definition, overcrowded. So I don't think but that being said, we don't want to stop growth in the county because we need more schools. We just have to manage it better, and we have to make sure that we're prepared. And I think that's the intent of the planning board. Rodney and I didn't agree on the 5 acres when he first brought it up, but I think what we need to look at is, keep in mind, guys, we just dropped our tax rate 22 cents. So we're going to have people flocking to us from other counties because we've got one of the most attractive tax rates, and we don't have enough houses now. So, I think there's a lot that we need to be looking at from a planning perspective, but I'm not sure that minimum lot size is the biggest issue that we've got right now in front of us. Because we do need more schools, we do need more EMS, we do need sheriff's department. We need a lot that we as a county need to pull that together as taxpayers and make sure that the growth that we want to support is the growth that we are going to be willing to support on the back end. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yes, sir.
what Rodney's trying to say, it's not chiseled in stone anywhere. is it?
No, sir.
That's what I
No,
was
that's
gonna.
what, yeah, it's just a discussion.
Can we?
It's kind of like these people, these people think it's.
This seems to have digressed and not, it's stopped being productive.
Right.
I think one of the things that would be productive is for our planner to tell us what the procedure is. We are not making a rule here, and then there will be other opportunities for the community to have input. Yeah.
This board has no authority and all it does is make recommendations.
So we make a recommendation to the county commissioners, and they would take that up, and they would have public hearings or public input and an opportunity before it's ever.
Yes, sir.
This may be a naive question, but are there any geological survey maps of where the groundwater is in this county?
So I think you asked that question earlier too. I'll answer it. Nothing that we've done, but Diener DEQ does have a geologist on staff that's working his way to our county to do something like that. He said he's probably 5 to 10 years out. I mean, in addition to, like Rob says, and we have a yield versus depth chart, right? But we have all this data. You know, they started collecting well records in 1999. We know where the shallow areas of the county are for wells, and there aren't that many of them. You know, we know specific areas. If you go there, like Mr. Hall said, you're drilling 1,000 feet, probably fracking, and you're getting a low yield. But that's not a common area for the county. You know, most of the areas you're drilling 300 feet, you've got about 10, 15 gallons a minute, and you're fine. So it's not usually a concern when we go out permitting a lot, the well. You know, it's the soils that are the issue, not where the well is going to go.
I was thinking more of how much water was there. So if you have 200 houses in an area, is it gonna drain all off?
Not that I've seen, that's a geologist, and the best I can say is it's coming.
I'm gonna throw this one in because something Mr. Langley just said, and he's right. There is no quote unquote guarantee where your well is gonna be. 8 years ago, I did a job down in Richmond County. Matter of fact, the house site was the highest elevation in Richmond County. I went in, cleared it, dug the footing. They brought the house in. It was a modular, crane set modular. They set it up. I put the septic system in. Time for the well drill. The man owned 56 acres of land. All right. Well more than 30,000. 56 acres. They drilled 14 dry holes and never hit water 1,000 foot each. You know what wound up happening?
It's a rock quarry.
They do not have they don't have a well. They don't have a well. And by the way, they're so far off of 220, ain't no point in even thinking about what they, just bring us a trench on there. But let's put this, we'll get some county water. Brand new house was put up there 8 years ago, is vacant today. Vacant. So the aquifer part, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. Am I close, Mr. Langley?
Yeah, there's no guarantees in drilling a well.
No. No.
Dry holes myself, sir. You know, that's.
It's costly, ain't it? It's costly, ain't
And
it?
it don't matter if it's 80 holes or not in the area or one.
It still gets costly. And dry holes are not, you know, that's just not recoverable.
There's 900-foot wells on 62 North right now.
Sometimes you're supposed to find water
Yes,
source
there is.
first. You gotta identify your water source first. That's what the engineer told me. So,
That job down in Richmond County, they flew somebody in here from Arizona, supposed to have been some kind of aquifer expert. He came in with all kinds of radar stuff and everything else. Still ain't got no well.
Figure well site, go out there, flip the coin out there.
I have been on jobs before, somebody take their hat off and throw it on the ground, I'm gonna drill a well right there. 300 feet, they got water. I've seen it a blue million times.
That's not what we're talking about today.
All right, you're right.
I got a
We
question.
drill 5.
Sir,
We drill 5.
to get well. Okay. Yes, sir.
Got a question for the water guy over here. What's when y'all were looking at wells, are y'all taking into account a cone of influence, the cone of influence of a well? When you go that deep, 900 feet, you know what the cone of influence is on that?
No, so when we permit a well, it's, you know, let's back up. The septic system, there's a lot more guidelines that we evaluate in soil. For a well, it's mainly a setback verification. So are you meeting your setbacks to the property line, neighboring wells, house, septic system? So that's what goes in the
So
permit
that's,
well.
that's what the county health department is concerned about. That is correct. That is exactly correct. But as far as water and those geological things, there's a cone of influence. So when you put more wells together, that cone of influence expands. The deeper you go, the wider the cone of influence goes to. Before people start to think about wells on smaller pieces of property, they should do some research on just the cone of influence, and that might help you have a better perspective of the well you're putting in and how it affects the property right around you.
And it makes sense, someone gonna hit the same things.
Yes, ma'am.
I think what Jay was trying to point out, and Jeff and the rest of Kevin and all of them, is when you have these meetings, you've got people in here right now who are developers or were developers or, surveyors, real estate agents, all these different people in here. And so they have a lot of knowledge and information that, and I'll speak for my parents, that most people don't have. So when you start throwing out numbers and saying, well, your well's gonna run dry, or your well could run dry, or we're gonna put 140 houses on 100 acres, and you deal in these big extremes and give those examples to people that don't know, then they panic, or they trust you because you're the people there, put up here to guide the county. So they trust you when you say that. So when you give them this huge, big example, I mean, those houses on Tom Road you're talking about, I looked at GIS. Most of them are an acre or more. So if, that's not 30,000 square foot lots you're talking about there. But when you start throwing out these numbers and you take 100 acres and divide it by 30,000 and say, I can put 140 houses in here, then people trusted you when you say that. And they take that information and that's what they use to make their decisions or to give their feedback to you. So when you have these meetings, take a little more consideration and time into doing, Sandy took the time, looked at the houses of things that were sold and things like that, not, 59 and 9 of them, or I can't remember the numbers you threw out, but very few of them were,
54 and 9.
54 and 9 were, really small. That's valid information. That's true information that you give to people that, for lack of a better way to say it, don't know any better. But when you tell them you won't take 140 houses and slap it in 100 acres, they trusted you that that's what you're saying is true, when it's really not, because that 100 acres, you're going to lose, 20 to 30% of it in roads and other infrastructure. So you're not going to get that. And then you got to have perfect conditions to be able to put a 30,000 square foot lot in there. And, I think this gentleman said your average septic system, you're talking about 10,000 for a septic system, and you got a 30,000 square foot lot. So 10,000 for this septic system, another 10,000 for it's not feasible. It's not realistic. If you want to increase the 30,000 to try, and then that's reasonable. But just because you want to keep DR Horton from coming and building 100 houses over here, and you think that you saying we're going to increase lot size, no, the lot size is not what brought them here. But those guidelines and everything that the health department puts in keeps them from having 30,000 square foot lots. So just be more realistic and more forthcoming, and I don't want to say honest, because I don't think your intent was to be dishonest, but I don't know how to say it. But with the information you can give out to these people, because some people know, but most people don't.
Can I say developers here, what do you think is a realistic number that you could fit on 100 acres?
Like I said earlier, 60. I mean, if I were to buy 100 acres, and you wanted to, okay, just say you got $10,000 an acre for us. What's that, $1 million? All right. So I would take if I can get 60 lots out of it,
and, whatever, 2 million, because you want to double your money. I mean, and that's, infrastructure and everything. And those are just like numbers off the top of my head. Please don't go to slow. That guy said it.
Okay. No, I
Because,
just wanted to know what you're.
but yeah, I mean, it's 60
Okay.
lots. If you got 60 lots, I think everybody in here would jump at 100 acres that they could get 60 lots on.
Do you think it's possible to get closer to 100 on that amount, or you just don't think it's possible?
You just don't have the soil around here.
Okay.
So you just
I
really don't
have
have,
a question. We live on Perry Road down adjacent to Mandel. And there's a piece of property that was sold out of the family. I believe it was 77 acres. And the guy that bought it, I think he's in Michigan, thinks he's gonna build 68 houses on it.
On 77 acres of land.
On 77 acres of land. There's a Iron Man, big high tension power right away through the middle of it. So he knows that's there.
you don't have a clue. I'll tell you, you don't have a clue. No. 200, if it's a tower line, it's either a 68-foot right of way or a 200-foot right of way.
Right.
And you're gonna lose land with that. And down there on Perry Road, we just did a development down there, 40 acres. I think we got 8 lots out of it. So again, it goes back to, there's just not that much good soil for 30,000 square foot lots. So, I mean,
So at 60 lots on 100 acres is generic acre and a half a lot. It's just a smell less than that.
That's what we're asking
And a
for.
perfect would be 66 lots on
But
100
you would
acres.
have, but what you're getting is you would have acre lots is what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yes, I mean, yes, the math is 60 on 100 would be an acre and a half, but again, you're not taking into account roads or drainage, stormwater control, that sort of thing.
Let me ask you this. On that 100 acres, if you were guaranteed only 20 lots, what would that property be worth to?
A lot less than $1 million.
You got it. That's the point I'm making. Every decision you make affects the property owner's value. It affects his livelihood. It affects his retirement. Now, I say that because when I found out about this meeting, I don't have a dog in this fight. I live on a 50-acre lot and it ain't gonna be sold. We gonna ride 4-wheelers on it and Argos on it and build campfires down by the creek. I don't think my son will ever have to sell it either.
Well,
but I am concerned because the chicken houses, I was in that business, I put them in towns and everywhere else. I understand nobody wants them, but somebody's gotta get them if you're gonna go to Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That's right.
So let's keep them down in Union County where I came up here from.
This actually happened, and I'm gonna need Smokey Bear to help me on this one, because this happened right over near the alcohol community. Right before this developing, let's build a house in Alamance County thing really got kicked off real hard. There was a guy over there, you know him, he lives at the end of the Claude Simpson Road. He was a farmer. He had a farm rented about 3 miles down the road from where he lived at his home farm. So he got on his tractor one day and was coming back with his spray. He'd been spraying for hornworms or something. He's going down through there. Well, the development had done cropped up over there in the community. So this guy comes flying through one of them little Nissans, Z300 something, and hit the man's tractor, and pardon my language, pretty near killed him. And the comment was, the guy in Nissan said when he got out of his car, he was worried about it being scuffed up. The man's laying over in the side ditch. His concern was his car got a dent in it, and that piece of redneck farmer should have stayed at the house. Little did he realize that redneck farmer was living on a farm that's been in his family for over 200 years.
It happened.
So the thing is like I said earlier, preserving that rural character, that should be important too. They should be important. And I like the idea you got the 50 acres down there to ride the 4-wheeler on. I like it because I got what's left of my family farm, and sir, I can assure you, It'll be broom straw and whatever corn or sweet potatoes I plan on planting myself. There won't be no developing there. That's a fact.
That's the way we plan to keep it
So
for a couple of generations anyway.
Rod has served on this planning board since how long?
18.
Rod's been here since '05. I started on this planning board in '96. Jay Burke right there served on this planning board for a long time. And I loved having him. I wish he was back.
Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker was the chair of this planning board. He did a stellar job. And Mr. Ike Holt over there, he gave me a whole lot of ground rules that I'm using today. So we're not trying, and I got to reinforce this. We're not trying to limit or take nothing from nobody. But we do need to preserve what you already have.
Trying to protect, correct?
Yes, we want to protect it.
That's what I thought it was.
And that's what it's all
This meeting's gone a
about.
long way from us trying to protect.
Well, it jumped over in left field a little bit, but we're not trying to prevent nobody from doing anything. What we're trying to do is we want to protect your 50 acres. Because what's going to happen when the tracts land all the way around your 50, except what you got on the highway? What's going to happen when it's sold and it's in patio houses? It don't make no difference if D.R. Horton does it, if Cimarron does it, or when it doesn't matter. It don't make no difference if Yahoo builds it. What's going to happen when they start invading on your property, sir? Because this is what I do know to tell you from fact.
I can tell you for a fact, most of them don't, because the crazy Vietnam veteran lives there.
But I do know that there is a water line and a sewer line that will be in the southern part of Alamance County before it's ever in the northern part of Alamance County, because it's already in Liberty, North Carolina, from Greensboro. Y'all will have water and sewer down there when they build these tracks that's got all them houses.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
And that mega site.
going to pertinent information, and I think that facts are important to look at. Because what I'm hearing, it sounds like that we have older ordinances that were in place from the 80s. And I know the septic rules have changed since that time in repair areas and such. Could we get actual factual data on the permits that were issued over the past year or so from the health department and the lot sizes that were approved in general? Is that data available? Let's see how many 30,000 square foot lots have been approved. A year, 2 years, whatever.
Tell us what you want, we can pull the data.
It sounds like what we're trying to do maybe is to update, because I hear you talking that most of the lot sizes are larger now anyway than 30,000 square foot.
And a lot of the lot sizes are larger due to flood zone and stuff. So it has to be 30 plus.
I'm just dancing on a 1.2 acre lot in southern Alamance, trying to get perk sites and a well site. And it's not easy.
Ms. Cottle, how much of the northern part of the county is in the watershed? Because it met a 2 acre minimum anyway.
Well, so the critical watershed is 2 acres, the balance of watershed is 1 acre. Let me pull up our plan.
That's the
Most
majority of the
northern-
northern part anyway, right?
It's mostly, I believe, in the balance of the watershed. I can pull it over here real quick. You pulled it up. He's gonna try to put it on the screen so everybody can see that.
Sandy, while she's doing
Yes,
that,
sir.
the home sales that you mentioned earlier, is that for just in the county?
Just county. Now, keep in mind, let me just preface
That
that.
doesn't include like city of Burlington
No.
sales or city of
It
Grant,
was,
it was just in the county.
It was the county. It was literally 2 hours before this meeting, so it was not a lot of research. But it was 59 transactions over the last 365 days in the county. So I did not include a lot of the municipalities. Obviously, Mebane, Gibsonville, some of those areas, Lake, kind of are more outlying. So the road names that I knew that would be well and septic, I did include those. But only 9 of those 59 were less than an acre. The majority of them are 1 to 2 acres anyway.
But were they new or were they?
That was vacant land.
Or just vacant?
Vacant land. Vacant land. So.
When did the state change the rule on the setback on a well to a septic from 100 foot to 50? When did that happen?
2017, 18.
5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been.
All right, so, and I'm flying from the hip here. With the 100% initial 100% repair, it was 100 linear foot from any part of the septic system to the well. 30,000 square foot wouldn't have worked nowhere anyway, right?
It was very, very difficult back before they changed it, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, the state did us a disservice by cutting it in half.
Or did they?
They did cut it in half.
Because, no, I'm sorry, did they do us a disservice?
Yes, they did.
Because now,
If, here's the deal. If Mr. Morgan's well is 100 feet from his septic system and he's fine, his neighbors is 50 feet from his septic system, is he fine? Because the thing of it is that septic water, when it starts hitting those fractures subsurface and you start getting lateral water movement, it's not gonna say, hold up. We 49 feet from his well, we need to stop. The further separation you have from a well to a septic tank, I would always assume would be better. Because septic tanks do leak and they do get in drinking water. That does happen. And I remember years ago, that it was 100 linear feet from any part of that septic field to your well. The lots were never that small. But I do remember when the state of North Carolina done it, not Alamance County, when they changed that rule and went from 100 linear foot to 50 linear foot, that's when you started getting these little, we'll call them matchbox lots.
Sandy, there's your map. The stuff in the purple on the north side, that's your critical watershed. In the yellow, it's balanced watershed. And anything that's gray has no watershed. We didn't put Jordan Lake in on there because we only do stream buffers from them, but they're pretty much following the north side too. Give it a minute, it's loaded for them.
So percentage wise on that side of the, I mean, percentage wise in Alamance County, how much of that lies in those 1 to 2 acre restrictions?
Oh,
Just
so
roughly.
You're talking way more than 50%, specifically on the north side. In Jordan Lake, there's two pieces of that. State regulates most of that. We regulate stream buffers. But until you get really commercial stream, Jordan Lake doesn't step in so much on your individual single family lot.
It's like 40% of the county, 20% of the county.
Oh, for the whole county, not just the
60% of
north
the county.
side. So you've got probably at least 40%, and then Jordan Lake stream buffers cover almost the whole county. So you're having to buffer a little more than some of the general, but that's only a 50-foot stream buffer on lakes, ponds, streams, those kind of things.
I think the minimum lot size is important, but I think hearing Ryan and Rob and just hearing Ray and some of the others in here talk, it's very seldom now that we even get a 30,000 lot. We have those optimum conditions where we have that perfect storm. So
We'll get that information together for you for next one.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. So it's my understanding that the lots in the northern part of the county are larger than in the southern part of the county. So are those lots, are there less problems currently with those lots in the northern part of the county than the more productive southern part of the county? Next question will be, are those lots worth more money because they're larger in the northern part of the county than the southern part of the county? And then lastly, were the people in the northern part of the county happier than the people in the southern part of the county?
I ain't sure about all that.
That's what-
The tax-free valuations thought the northern part of the county's property was valued higher. Our taxes, our values went up higher per capita, per percentage than the southern part of the county. That's all I know about you.
Yes. But you got a 22.
I'm happy up in the north.
We're happy.
You got a 22-cent cut on it though. Didn't y'all say we got a 22-cent
And your taxes.
reduction?
And your taxes.
I'm just saying, that was the
Well,
point that was made earlier.
in a lot of cases, your property valuation, the bottom line dollar figure doubled, and then they thought, well, let's give you 22 cents off.
Yeah, right.
You still sending a bigger check.
Yeah.
You still sending a bigger check. And I got to come back to this one right here, right there in the northeastern part of the county, right there where 62 runs up into Caswell County. That's the development I was talking about a little while ago. On average, what size lots you got up there? They used to be the Massey Farm. On average, what size lots do you have?
You talking about one of the three brothers?
No.
Close to 5 acres if you average 270 acres.
Are you having any trouble selling them lots?
Not at all.
None at all. Thank you very much. Right over on 62, when you come off Raw Hut Street, you cross Big Bridge over at Hall River, where everybody's got to have a little a trail where you run and get all the ticks on you and everything. As soon as you get outside of municipal limits, Three Brothers Construction right there at Fawcett Lane, they bought the Gant farm. and they slapping houses up there faster than anything. Chandler might as well just go ahead and put them on them portable plants up out there. Cause they building houses left and right. They got larger lots and they're selling like crazy.
No, they don't. They got 30,000.
What size lot?
They got 30,000 square foot lots over there.
Yeah, I did it.
Did you really?
Yes, sir.
Cool. They still got the big
And the
ones.
reason for it is because they're right there on the road.
Well, back to your question on,
It
Mr.
works.
on Mr. Dixon.
We
and
were
this-
able to.
Not addressing this board, Mr. Dixon, but how many roads, how many those lots are cut off of the main road?
Where the soils will allow me minimum lot size, they just like you did.
I agree, that, but I said it wasn't disrespectful to you.
Yeah.
The point was, is he didn't have to build any roads.
We're going to.
There's roads gonna be built.
That's where I'm at, man.
Yes, you are.
I'm out road.
Well, and it's wonderful, okay, it don't hurt to build a road every once in a while when you can cut a tremendous amount of them off the road frontage. That was the point. I mean, that wasn't what you.
I drove for lots that are 15 acres too.
Yeah, no, if I had them on the road, I'd cut them off the road, I'd cut them off the road.
Well,
So are we, can we gather some information? And
I think it's a good idea.
I think everybody has had an opportunity to speak. We're just going on a circle.
That's fine. Is everybody satisfied with that? Yes, sir.
I just want to say how impressed I've been with everybody here. I'm so proud to be a part of this community, and I'm glad to hear everybody what they had to say. I really appreciate everybody. We go have a drink now.
Come back and visit with us next time. We'd like to have you.
And we are glad to have you. Agenda chair will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Yeah, I already seconded.
All right.